Welcome back to my channel, artists. Today we will be making a pocket weaving loom. Step number 1, make 8 lines at the top. You want to make your lines about 1/2 inch or 1 finger length apart. So I've got 7 on there. I'm going to add 1 more. Step number 2, cut your lines about 1/2 inch deep. If you don't cut them deep enough into that cardboard, then you can have some problems with your yarn poking out, and that is a really important thing not to happen for this loom. So make sure you're cutting them deep. Step number 3, wrap your loom. The wrapping step is a little bit complicated. You're going to leave about 4 or 5 inches on the end, and then you're going to go down to the bottom. You're going to go back up into the same cut, and then you're going to go sideways. I'm actually going to draw out that pattern. So I'm going to go sideways and then down, up, and sideways. So I'm going to go sideways directly next to, down, and then back up into the same mark. Then I'll go sideways across the back, exactly like it did across the front. Down, back up, sideways across the front, down and back up. You're going to end up seeing this pattern where it has like sideways across and then a blank spot, sideways across and then a blank spot. It's going to look the exact same on the back as it does on the front. So you're going to continue going down and back up, sideways, down and back up until you're all the way finished with your loom. Once you have finished your loom, you'll want to cut off another section about 4 or 5 inches long, just so that you have enough space for tying the knot at the end. Step number 4. You're going to weave over and under. You're going to weave an over-under pattern through the bottom of your loom. If you have a needle, you're welcome to use it. The string that I'm using here didn't really fit in the needle very well, so I just went ahead and wove without it. But of course, if you have a needle and your string or thread fits inside, you're welcome to do that. You want to weave over, under, and pull it all the way through so you have just a little end, just like we did at the top when we made the loom. And then you're going to flip it over to the back side and do that same over, under on the back. After you have pulled your string all the way tight on the back side, you're ready for step 5. Weave the next row opposite. So you'll notice here that I started over top of that black string, so I'm going to start my next row under, and you want to go opposite. So just pay attention to what the row below looks like. Now, if you do it wrong on this type of weaving, it only causes a problem at the very end. When you go to take your artwork off the loom, it will completely fall apart. 1 or 2 parts that are wrong won't make a difference. In fact, I make a mistake in the middle of my artwork and I don't even think you can see it. But you do want to make sure that you're going over, under to create that strong pattern. If you think about the burlap that we used when we made our sewing and how the edges were frayed because they came undone, it's something like that where it can come undone if it's not woven correctly, but the middle of that burlap is really, really tight and strong. And as long as we do all of our weaving tight and strong and tie knots at the end, all of it will look nice and tight. So you want to make sure that as you're going from row to row that you're going opposite, over, under, making sure you're going on the back as equal times as you're going on the front to create that woven pocket. As I continue on my weaving, you'll notice I have taken up a lot of space as I've gone over, under through this green piece of string, but it's really, really high. So I'm going to actually just squish it down. You want to continue to squish down throughout the entire project. You want those pieces of string as close together as possible to make your weaving tight, to make sure that things don't fall out of your bag, and even completely cover up that string that you used on the loom, because that's your goal. You won't want to be able to see that anymore. Now that I have completely finished with my green string, I am ready for step number 6. I'm ready to tie a new string and weave. You want to make sure that you're tying this in a double knot. Of course, a single knot will not tie properly. You want to tie a nice good knot. You'll also want to make sure that you yank on it from both sides. Sometimes if we don't yank on it, depending on how slippery the string is, it can actually move. And I'll cut the ends off, but I want to leave a big enough section that that if it does come apart, that I can actually retie the knot. And I'm going to get out my needle for the next one. If you need help kind of squishing them down, you're welcome to use a popsicle stick if you've not already used your popsicle stick from the bag. So I'm going to put my needle in, my string into the needle and tie the knot just like we did before when we made our sewing. And I'm going to continue that same weaving pattern, making sure that I go opposite from the row below. So if my row below started under, I'm going to begin my next row over, under, front to back, just like it was the exact same piece of string. And you're just going to continue that over under pattern, front to back, over under, and squishing the string down as you go until you make it all the way to the top. You want to make sure you leave as little gaps as possible throughout, including at the top, just to make sure that your weaving is as tight as possible, it does not come apart, and is as beautifully done as you can make it. Step number 7, pull down the tabs. Now that I have finished weaving, I'm going to pull my tabs and separate them back and forth because I want to take the loop of that black string that's on there and I want to pull it off. So you're going to pull down your tabs either direction. If your tabs fall off, it's not a big deal. You don't need the cardboard anymore, so that can be okay as well, depending on how strong your cardboard is. Step number 8, pull off your weaving. This step can be tricky. The tighter you pulled your string, the harder it might be to pull off. So you can see that I'm kind of pulling apart my weaving a little bit. It'll come back together. Obviously, I don't want to completely rip anything. Mine was on there pretty tight, so I'm going to actually end up bending my cardboard to get it out. Whatever way you need to, just make sure that you're not ripping your weaving as you go. Step number 9, tie and cut the ends. First, you want to find any of those ends that we did not tie at the beginning, and you want to tie it to something. If there's an extra string nearby, tie it to that string. If not, you can always find a loop in your weaving and you want to tie it. Make sure you have a really good knot in there. If you don't know how to tie or tying is a struggle, you can always find a grown-up to help you. Then when you're done tying those knots, you're going to want to go to the ends and cut off any loose pieces. You don't want really long ends on there, so you want to cut them. You don't want to cut them on the knot because, of course, the knot could come undone when you're cutting accidentally, so you want to leave like a 1/4 of an inch or so of that string. Because I had so many knots tied on mine and it looked a little scraggly, I decided to make mine go inside out, so those cut ends and cut pieces end up being on the inside. That is completely optional, but you can see I just kind of switch that inside out, just like you might put a shirt or something else inside out. And then you're welcome to use your weaving for anything you'd like, for pencils, sunglasses, a cell phone case, whatever you'd like to put inside. I hope you have enjoyed watching how to make a woven pocket today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date on all the fun and fantastic things that we are doing in the art classroom. What will you create?